Whatever happened to predictability? The milkman, the paperboy, evening TV. Everywhere you look, everywhere there's a heart, a hand to hold on to.
Why is the only liberal plan to spend?
Mr. Speaker, the liberal plan is to invest.
It is time to invest in the future of our country. It has never been more appropriate to invest in the future of our country.
That's why our economic plan, it is really at its heart about investing in Canadians.
That's what we're proposing to Canadian, generational investment in our future, Madam Speaker.
We're not spending that amount of money, we're investing that amount of money.
If you wake up one morning and you find yourself in a society where 23-year-olds with 4-year college degrees and like initiative who aren't smoking weed every day, if they can't make enough to buy a car, much less a home, much less get married, much less have children, then why should you be surprised when half of them say they prefer socialism?
And I just want to thank you because you're very, very special people. You were here long before any of us were here. Although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas. But you know what? I like you.
Whatever happened?
That's honestly, I got to say, before we get into the meat and potatoes of that, okay? That's when I love Donald Trump.
Dude, I can't believe he's serious.
No, but that's the thing. Well, did you ever hear her in the Senate at these Senate hearings? A normal, rational person who doesn't have ideological blinders on would say, wow, that woman's like, she's pretty dumb and she's pretty out there. And on top of the fact that she's a liar, and it's been proven that she's a liar because she's got like zero Indian blood in her. But she starts complaining about it, like she talked about the high. Remember how nauseating and cringeworthy that was? What, like 4 years ago? She's talking about the high cheekbones. I remember you and I on the show going like this. What is she talking about? Who lets her get away with this? But I do want to ask you this. Joe Rossinello and Joe Pasillo at the front line with Joe and Joe, and we're going into the breach. Here's the thing about investment. Now, you and I, and anybody who has eyes to see, saw this, what? We've been hearing this going back to Bill Clinton, all right? That was like the new language. It could have been before then, but I don't remember. But I remember the Bill Clinton, well, we're going to invest. But here's the thing. I have two questions for you. Number one, who are they getting the money from to invest, and who's getting the fruit of investing all that money? And number two, where is the fruit? Because all I see is rich guys getting richer, and we're going to talk about socialism because Joe and I are not socialists. But yes, rich people get richer. Middle class and working class people get the boot on their face. Where's the fruit of all this investment, Mr. Carney? Who was the other guy, by the way, Joe, in Canada? I've never seen his face before.
I don't know all the players.
He's another weirdo, okay? That's what he is. And it's like, dude, at what point do we say to ourselves as people, as the voting public, let's assuming the elections are not rigged, you're voting for a guy who's talking about investment, but they're taking the money from you. They're investing all right, and the companies that get the fruit and the profits from those investments, their shares go up. And who's benefiting from that? Because most people don't own shares of stock. Joe, where am I wrong?
Well,
I don't think I'm wrong.
If you could, and I invite the listeners to this to Google. Jamie Dimon came out today with some comments. For those who don't know who Jamie Dimon is, he's the CEO of the largest bank in the world, JP Morgan. He basically said Europe is draining investment as well as the initiative out of the continent based upon their economic model. What is that economic model? It's green economics. It's globalism at its like perfect state. This is the prototype that Canada has bought into, and that's what Carney's talking about. We're investing in green economics, which it's not even debatable, guts the middle class, and we have seen that in Canada. Canada is gutted. That is what the leftists in America want to bring to this country. Let me be clear to everyone who hears my voice. That is textbook what they want to bring. It will gut the country. Our country's already gutted. It will further gut it. So that's what they're talking about. They're just spinning the words, and that is a great little take on it. It kind of timelines everything, how words matter. They just sit on that. It's not spending, it's investment. Who are they taking the money from? The taxpayer. And this is, again, people, we just don't see through the fog. Canada and Europe, if you have any questions on the direction of the current Democratic Party in America, that's it. This is not, listen, I'm not a MAGA guy. I'm not a Republican. I'll tell you who I am. I'm a Catholic. I see everything through the Catholic lens. Everything, my politics, all of it. I have no loyalties to Donald Trump, although I did vote for him, full disclosure. I have no loyalties to the Republican Party, but I do have eyes to see. That is exactly what they're talking about. That's exactly what they want to bring to this country. Now, will the oligarchs allow it to the degree that it happened in Europe or in Canada? Maybe not to the degree. That's just being realistic. But it will get much further along. And also what Tucker Carlson said, it's not about being lazy right now for kids coming out of college. People are spending $400,000 on good, quote unquote, degrees from real schools, and they're not getting jobs. And that is only going to get worse as AI. I'm not trying to be a doomsday guy. I'm just telling you what the trajectory of the last 10 years has been.
I think that you're not being doomsday. You're calling a spade a spade. You're describing the reality, Joe, of the situation, and that's the problem: is that people don't look at the reality of the situation.
They don't want to look at it.
Well, that's true too, and there's a whole host of other reasons for that. But we'll stay on this. Tucker Carlson used the word initiative. Okay, but initiative comes from the idea that if I dig deep and I really apply myself, I have the initiative. Okay, you do that in the material world. I'm not talking about necessarily in the spiritual realm, and even though it applies there too, I take initiative because there's a benefit to it, a material benefit to my life. I take the initiative if I go to Seton Hall Prep and I'm going to get straight A's because my mother and father are sacrificing to send me there, and I'm going to do really well in college, and I'm taking the initiative. Now, along the lines of things we've been talking about for what? 7 years now? Okay, but that gets you nothing. And they kind of have designed it that way. So Tucker's saying, yeah, you could have all the initiative in the world, but the system is rigged against you. So you just went $400,000 in debt to go to Harvard or Yale or Notre Dame or whatever the case may be. Or let's say $300,000. How about $200,000? It's still too much. And there's no job for you. There's no
that's what it is.
They've robbed your initiative of anything that might have been good for your life, and they've taken it for themselves.
People have to look at 2 elections as indicators for the future. One, Mamdani. Why did the under 40 vote for Mamdani? The same reason why Tucker Carlson just said what he said. They don't see a future. And many of them did everything they were supposed to do. Second election just took place in Tennessee. Tennessee is the reddest of red states. And an AOC congressional candidate only lost by 7% in Tennessee.
Right.
That should tell you that people can't live. It's not about being lazy. They can't live.
Right.
So they're buying into the lie that the government is going to be their dad, which is not going to happen, and it is a lie. But what has to happen is corporatism has to get dialed back. And the concern and the here's the sad part. The greed that is basically in the Chamber of Commerce Republican will not allow themselves to do it. And they're going to get gutted. Because eventually what is going to happen, in my opinion, you're not going to see, I don't think after Trump, they don't have anybody that's really serious to win. If they did, they might, but they don't. I mean, Gavin
at least
Newsom
at the moment.
at the moment, there is no one. But
Right.
eventually a charismatic person is going to show up who's a good politician. Mamdani's a very good politician. He's also very smart. He's just not there yet. And he or she is going to win. And when they do, they are going to raise the inheritance tax. They are going to gut the Chamber of Commerce Republican.
They're also going to impose a wealth tax.
Oh, they're going to destroy people.
So
And
if
this
you're
is
holding
where,
on to $1 million, if you're a guy who's got $10 million in Nvidia stock and you just bought and hold and you think it's going to be a $10 trillion company, whatever, you're not selling it. Now, when you sell it, there's a taxable event. We know this, capital gain, long-term capital gain. What they'll do is say, well, you're not doing anything with that. So that's worth $10 million. We're going to take $1 million.
That's
Well, I
right.
don't have it. Well, go
And
sell
they'll
$1
do it
million
legally.
worth of stock and you're going to send it to the IRS.
They'll
Now,
do it
if you don't
legally.
think they'll do that. Now, here's the tricky part. And I'm really interested in your thoughts on this, Joe. If you're joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, we go live on Sundays and we have a great conversation for you tonight. Stick around. We're going to be talking about what Joe just alluded to. Dana Perino had a really good comment on socialism. You got the Democrats are just criminal and they really deserve to be in orange jumpsuits. Censorship, you got religious persecution all over the world. We're going to talk about that. But the fact is that, as we say on the show all the time, the Republicans are chasing the regular person into the hands of these people.
100%.
Right into the hands of these people. And it's like, how do you blame someone? Even if you're under 40 and you're not a radical, you're not a socialist. Okay. But even somebody like E. Michael Jones, right? He says that election in New York means a whole lot. He even used the phrase, God bless Mamdani, because he got it. And that's why he won. You see, because people now the liberal Democrat in that race was obviously Andrew Cuomo. But the left, they're done with the likes of Andrew Cuomo.
100%.
They want somebody, because he's another oligarch. He's just a tool of the oligarch. And Mamdani might be too, but the fact is, at least Mamdani hit on a message that, you know what? You can't afford to live in New York City, and I'm going to make it affordable. And guess what? If I think what E. Michael Jones was trying to say was that better be a wake-up call to the Republicans.
Agreed. I've been saying that, to be honest with you, I think he heard that from me.
He's
hate
been
to
watching
say
the
it,
front line with
because
Joe.
I've been saying that for 6 months. That is foreshadowing of the future. Because here's the deal, and I'm not trying to sound condescending. Most people are not informed enough to know the end game of socialism. Socialism doesn't work. It doesn't work. And you could point to a million different societies. What works is capitalism with a conscience. Formed people grounded in morality through God, who reach their potential, take care of their own, and keep an eye on society and take care of society justly.
Can I ask you a question? When you sent me these clips the other day, I had this, it's been going through my head quite a bit. And I hope everybody out there knows that Joe and I don't just do this show and just say, oh, let's just go to it. We think about these things because these are important matters. God bless Joe Rossinello, because he comes up and he finds these things to talk about. Where am I going with that? If you let's say, for argument's sake, if you look at running into the hands of the socialists and everything else, you really, at some point, you have to say to yourself, I can't blame anybody. I can't blame anybody for going down this road, because what's the alternative? The alternative is both Democrats and Republicans who have, and both of them, both parties. Doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, you tell me, does it really matter?
Well, I'll be honest, like I could see people just dropping out of the system. Like a lot of people, I would never vote for an AOC candidate, but I can't in good conscience vote for some of these Republican candidates either. And I'll hold my nose on some. Ultimately, what is going to happen is another coalition of, we'll call it woke people, but woke in a different, perspective. Like their eyes are open to the system. The system doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, I'm a 55-year-old man. It worked for me. It's not going to work for my kids. The model does not work. And this is not me, again, throwing stones. Look at the metrics. It does not work. Housing, the average person can't afford a house. The average person can't afford college. And even if they take loans, they can't pay them back. They can't pay them back. They're not going to get the jobs that are going to basically pay that debt back.
You're right.
So, and this is reality. Forbes just came out with a story. 30% of the people in America got jobs in their field of study. 30. That means 7 out of 10
How
kids.
is that? If back in the day, if you wanted to be an accountant, you took accounting in Seton Hall University.
Oh, you got a job
accountant
right out of the chute.
Here was the question I was going to ask you. And I think this is a fundamental question. Now, E. Michael Jones says conservatism is dead, but I'm going to use the word conservative, okay, to describe people who I think, at least from what in my whole life, that think like us, okay? We're trying to preserve or conserve something. Conservatives need to understand that the economy is like anything else. Let me give you a analogy. Okay. We brought this up before on the show, but I'm going to tie it into something. If you get the 9 of the greatest baseball players who ever lived, okay, and you sent them out onto a field, all right, if they just start playing with each other, let's say throwing the ball around, they got bats, they got gloves, whatever, okay, it's just nothing but chaos. They have to appeal. Now, this is where I'm going with this, Joe, and for all you out there listening to us at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe, there's an authority. The authority is those who make up the rules of the game. And then within the rules of the game, you flourish. Derek Jeter, Babe Ruth, Joe DiMaggio, whoever the case might be, Barry Bonds, whoever the case might be. You flourish within the context of the rules. But the rules are set by an authority that says there are things you cannot do, and then everything else you're allowed to do. But here's the baseline, here's the bases, here's the outfield fence. Now, where am I going with this? The same, and I heard this a long time ago. George Will said this, but I didn't agree at the time because I was a knee-jerk conservative. This is like 25 years ago. And George Will had said that ultimately the economy is set. I'm paraphrasing. The stage for the economy is set by the government, by the laws that the government enacts, where people like us and the business owners and the workers and everybody else, we elect representatives that are going to make laws. And there are rules that govern the economy, the same way there are rules governing a baseball game. There's an authority. It's called the federal government. There are things you can do. There are things you can't do. The things you can do vastly outweigh the things you can't do. But there are things you cannot do. And by the way, there are also things that you must do vis-a-vis workers and everything else. You set the rules and you say, boys, go play. Problem with conservatives is conservatives don't want to adopt that attitude or don't want to acknowledge that there is an authority over the economy. See, they want complete laissez-faire market economics, but then that means that the inmates are running the asylum. That means the players make the rules, but the players don't make the rules and are not supposed to make the rules. The government is supposed to make the rules, and everybody operating within the economy has to function according to those rules. That was my larger point. Why is it, and here's my question, Joe, that conservatives find that idea to be so contemptible that, yes, the government is the one that makes the rules, and you have to operate within those rules, and that's not what we have now.
Well, you talk to a Chamber of Commerce Republican. They want no government hand. Basically, many of those people are extraordinarily capable, and they thrive as a result of it. And they want to have unlimited access to wealth. But in doing so, they disregard others who don't have the gifts that they have, and they just take that for granted. Well, you could work hard. No, wrong. Someone who doesn't have your intellect, the natural gifts that you have, they can't just work hard and make it. It doesn't work that way. And here's the deal. When you neglect them enough, which we have done, we've stripped our people of health care. Companies don't offer it anymore. We stripped them of pensions. We've stripped them of the ability to have a 401k. Only 50% of America owns one share of stock, doesn't own a share of stock.
Right.
Only the top 11% of America own 80% of the stock, which is mostly health, hedge funds, mutual funds, and private equity firms. So when you do that to that degree, which is a lack of morality,
Yeah.
because you can't say that you love God and disregard your neighbor. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. That's you're living in a delusion. Now, no one does it perfectly, but we were told this from the beginning by John Adams. A democracy does not work for amoral people. It only works, his exact words, a religious people.
But doesn't that also apply to the economy and not?
No, but that's exactly what the economy
Yeah.
is. If
Yeah.
I am doing very well, I have to also set the game so others can do well. Well, guess what? It doesn't work that way now. Others can't do well. Even a 7 out of 10 kid, a kid that's like a B+ kid that goes to like a pretty decent schools like Villanova. You're out of luck, kid. I hope you didn't take debt. So this is what I'm saying. We've gotten to the point, and why did we get to that point? Because the oligarchs fund the campaigns, and the people who get elected set policy according to those who gave them money. This is exactly how America works. And this is why we're at the point we're at. And this is where we could ignore it as much as possible. You're not going to ignore it when you owe $300,000 and you can't get the job to pay that back and start your life.
Well,
I'm telling you that right now. You're not going to ignore it then. Or you guide your kid to that point. He or she's going to be very disappointed. I got news for you. So are you, because you either paid for it or you told your kid, take the debt. Right. Because you'll get a job. They're going to be very disappointed. So this is the reality. We allowed this to happen as a people, and it's been going on for decades, Joe. This is not new.
Well,
Decades.
you see the viciousness. You see the viciousness now, leaving aside some of the things that, let's say, for argument's sake, Nick Fuentes has said that are more controversial, but he made a very good point. The Republicans, if you want to have he was talking about a coalition that could last 100 years, certain issues where people could come to the table. He said, and 80% agree. Okay, I think that needs to be tweaked a little bit. But he made a very good point that one of the things that the white shoe Republicans have to do is understand, I'm paraphrasing him, you're not bowing at the free market, the altar of the free market.
They won't do that, though. I agree with you. That's what they have to do. Or for their own self-preservation, they're not going to. And that's the foolishness of this. We just had 2 major warnings. It's in clear sight, and we're going to play a clip. Why don't you play that? That's a good clip.
I'll play it right now.
Margin will be closer tonight than anyone should feel comfortable with on the Republican side. I do think that Van Epps will win, but this, again, is Democratic Socialists on the march. Last night, the Democratic Socialists in Washington, D.C., and now she'll be running for mayor, too. So, guys, it's happening. They're all coming. That's where the energy is. Republicans need to wake up and understand that just complaining about the term socialism is not going to get you there. Voters are looking for change, and this feels to them like the most immediate way to get it because it all sounds so good, and none of it's.
It all sounds so good, but here's the thing where I would expand on what Dana Perino was saying. It sounds good because when you talk to the Republicans and you talk about affordability in housing, affordability in college without going into $300,000 in debt, when you talk about all these things that we quite frankly can't afford right now as working people are having a hard time affording, Joe, I don't want to make it seem like I'm patting you and I on the back. We started this show 7 or 8 years ago. We've been saying the same thing. Don't blame the socialist. The socialist is who he or she is. Blame the Republicans for chasing the working people into their arms. Why should I vote for you, Mr.
That's exactly
Republican,
right.
if I'm in New York City?
I agree
You
with you.
think that the Dow being at 45,000 benefits me, and it does not. I don't own, as Joe Resinello said, I don't own one share of stock. It doesn't matter to me. Okay?
Joe, I'll be honest with you. It's more up to the people. You see, what's going to happen, and this is something, Fuentes is flawed, and I also sometimes question his sincerity. I think he's a propagandist to some degree. He's beating a drum to try to. He sees a vision, and he's using propaganda to get people and shock to get people to that place. That's kind of how I see him. With that being said, he does say certain things that are spot on, and he also does have an insight, and he is well read. And that part of what he's saying is spot on. Yeah. Eventually, people have to get fed up. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get people to that point, using shock, using propaganda.
Shouldn't he, though?
No, it's not a bad strategy.
People got to get woken up, Joe.
No, I understand. It's a strategy, and he has a strategy. He's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. Rich people don't get rich by being stupid. You don't have to like them. People who are rich are disciplined, and they have a strategy. That's how they get rich. And I'm going to tell you right now, he has a strategy. And ultimately, that guy is trying to push people to a certain spot. That's why he actually wants Donald Trump to lose. He wants the temperature to get higher.
Shouldn't it?
No, it's a strategy. But there's going to be a lot of suffering that go along with that.
Joe, let me ask you a question. That begs the question. I'm being sincere. But aren't we already on? If we're not suffering pain now, we're certainly, if we keep going down that road, this road that we're on, many people are suffering, and more people will suffer. I think it was E. Michael Jones that kind of alluded to the idea that Mamdani's a wake up call that you just described. That and if Nick Fuentes is trying to push people there too, is that look to tell the Republicans. Remember Joe, what communists and socialists are all about. They're all about confiscation. I don't know what these Chamber of Commerce Republicans are thinking if they think they're going to hide their money somewhere, because they're not going to hide it if these people
No,
have
I know
real
that.
power. They're not.
They just can't, Joe, they're living, Joe, it's like everybody else. They lie to themselves. They lie to themselves.
Terrible lie to be
that you always end up losing when you do that. They're lying to themselves. And ultimately, how this is going to play out. You had Donald Trump. I think either J.D. Vance or DeSantis is probably going to win. That if I was going to bet money, because they don't have anybody. They just don't to win. Eventually, it's going to swing, and it's going to swing hard left. And then it's going to swing hard right. You're going to get Mussolini, America. Donald Trump isn't Mussolini. You're going to get him. And it's going to keep swinging radical. That's what happens in South America. And I'm going to tell you when the music stops. When a serious crisis happens organically. Could be a massive terrorist attack. Could be an economic crash. And then whoever is in power when that happens, they're going to change the laws. And they're going to cement themselves to be in power for a long time.
Right.
Their ideas. That's what happened in Mexico. The party in Mexico that just got thrown out. Mexico is a completely dysfunctional government. Completely dysfunctional government. The people who are in control are not in control of Mexico. That is the case here, but that is a lawless state, Mexico. Mm-hmm. That is what's going to happen here. Whoever is in control when that crisis happens, they're going to change all the laws. And then you're not the First Amendment, all that, say if it's the left, all gets thrown out the window.
No, we're gonna talk about that in a little bit. We're gonna talk about what's going on in England and everything else, where you can't even think a thought, let alone say a thought. But here's a crisis that might be right. It might be right at our doorstep now, or not so far into the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for calling this hearing. Thanks to all of the witnesses for being here. I just want to start with numbers that I think are absolutely unbelievable. The cost of health insurance, the increase in health insurance expenditures or health expenditures since 1960 is up. I think we've got a chart maybe over my shoulder here. Since 1960, there has been a 2,109% increase in the cost of health in the United States, healthcare spending. 2,109% increase. Today, Americans spend more on healthcare than on groceries or housing. I mean, this is extraordinary. More than on groceries or housing. 41% of adults in the United States have debt from medical expenses. And I noticed a recent Gallup report found that 31 million Americans borrowed money last year to pay for healthcare. 31 million Americans. I want to just add to some of the testimony that's been offered here today by reading you something from a constituent of my state. This is a mother in my state of Missouri. She wrote to me recently and said the health insurance coverage for myself and my two daughters are showing to be $1,500 a month, enough to actually make a mortgage payment. I'm a small business owner and wondering how I'm going to be able to afford this. She goes on to say in that same letter, I thought about just getting insurance for my daughters, but I also remembered the time where I couldn't afford insurance one year, and the doctor and hospital bills were twice as much for cash payers because they bill you the maximum amount possible. I mean, I think we should just be honest about what we're facing here. This is a crisis. This is a crisis. And I realize that in Washington, it's treated sometimes as a numbers game. It's treated as a white paper to be discussed. But for people at home, they cannot afford to go and see a doctor. I'm the father of 3 small children. I can't imagine what it would be like to say, I can't afford it. I can't take my kid to the hospital. I mean, we're fairly frequent visitors to the hospital in my family. I've got 2 boys. We're there a fair amount for their various injuries. And thinking about parents in my state or anywhere else saying, you know what, I think my kid's got a broken bone, but I can't go to the hospital. I can't afford it. I can't go to the doctor. I can't afford it. And millions of Americans are saying that. On the subsidies, on the premium tax subsidies, let's just be honest. If we don't do something on this issue, if Congress does not take action on this issue in the next few weeks, this will be a crisis for 24 million Americans and counting.
Now, here's the thing. Tying this into the conversation we're having about the Republicans chasing working people into the hands of the left and the socialists. Republicans are in bed with the pharmacists. Now, they're all in bed, but let's keep it with the Republicans for a second. Republicans are in bed with the pharmaceutical companies, with the insurance companies. None of them are going to do anything to change this system.
Nothing.
Because it's them, it's the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical companies, the trial lawyers. Nobody ever wants to talk about the trial lawyers who don't want caps on rewards because that would bring down insurance costs. Joe, I got a hip surgery, and then I'm going to throw it over to you. Most people who watch The Frontline with Joe and Joe know that last year I got 2 new hips because I needed them, quite frankly. I was bone-on-bone arthritis in both my hips. Couldn't even walk, couldn't even sleep, okay? I saw the bill. Now that, because they have to send you what it actually costs, even though my wife's insurance, I have insurance through her job, was able to cover it. I think I paid $3,000 out of pocket, okay? Joe, the doctor made like a couple grand. All right, on each surgery. The anesthesiologist made like $4 or $5,000 on each surgery. The bill was $100,000. $70,000 of that went to the hospital. And you know why I don't blame the hospital? Their insurance premiums are so high because of trial lawyers, because of fear of lawsuits and having to pay $100 million or something like that. None of the people that are in that chamber with Senator Josh Hawley are going to do anything to adjust. The Democrats don't want to do anything about trial lawyers. The Republicans don't want to do anything about insurance companies, okay? And none of them want to do anything about the pharmaceutical industry. What do you think, Senator Hawley? That's right. If my son breaks his bone, thank God my wife's got good insurance that we're all covered under, or else we'd be screwed with a capital S.
Joe, a lot of people are screwed right now. And I'm going to tell you right now, again, what they're going to do is they're going to vote for socialized medicine. Many people are going to say, that's great. Look at the countries that have socialized medicine. Figures just came out in Canada. Almost 25, it's like 24,000 and change. Last year, people died waiting for medical care. We're not used to that in America. That's part of socialized medicine. And what's another part of socialized medicine? When you're 81 years old and they say, no, we're not giving you that operation. Mom's dying. That's part of socialized medicine too. And what's also part of socialized medicine is legalized euthanasia.
Right.
In Canada, that is the number 5 cause of death. And it keeps growing. The MAID program, if you don't believe me, look that up. That's also part of socialized medicine. I do not want the government to be in control of. They can't get the post office right. What should happen is they should force companies to pay up and to reduce many of the things you just talked about. Insurance, they should come down on the corporate man. They're not going to. Why? Because they feed into their coffers. Right. So what happens? We're pushed into a socialist model, which again will hurt the American people. How do I know that? Look at Europe, look at Canada. For those who don't know who Josh Hawley is, who's talking like a 1980 Democrat, by the way, he's one of the most conservative Republicans in the Senate. He's just a populist and he's practical and he has a conscience. That's all he is.
Kind of all you need.
And frankly, that is like what the Republicans will ignore him because they don't care. Right. And the Democrats are licking their lips. By the way, the same Democrats who are going to put you in that medical care system, they're not using it. They're going to buy into a specific system. Oh, yeah, they'll have special hospitals. And if you think that Barack Obama is going to use socialized medicine for his 2 daughters, you're high. So this is my point. We're not thinking. We are not seeing things as they are. And it's not a crisis now. It was a crisis 20 years ago. We should never have allowed companies to do that. And why do they allow them? So the stock price continues to go up.
Right.
Because if they did what I did, it would impact the market. It wouldn't be 45,000 at the Dow. And the people who are running the show, like the Larry Flint, the Finks at BlackRock, the people who run the mutual funds, the people who run the 401ks, the people on Wall Street, the investment banks, will not permit that. So how do they move it? They give money. They give money to both parties so it doesn't happen. Meanwhile, we get crushed. And even if we get crushed, they don't care because they pay into a specific doctor and a specific plan, which you and I will never have access to. And this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
But again, people just, it's like, Joe, they just cover their ears. They live in their own twisted little reality. They don't look at the world clearly, because to be honest with you, that means you have to make changes, you have to make decisions, and that is how we have sleepwalked into this position as in a country. America is at a tipping point right now. This is not like when they always say, like, this is the most important election. No. We are at a tipping point right now. This country, because other countries of the West have gone off the cliff. Canada is done. Canada is done. Many of our listeners are at Canada. They're saying it in the chat room, right? It's done. Right. Europe is done. Elon Musk right now is calling for the end of the EU. I was calling for the end of the EU 5 years ago.
Right.
5 years ago. It's been a disaster to the people of Europe. A disaster.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Another thing that's a disaster is these Democrats. How, again, Mamdani, give him credit. Okay, you got to give him credit. He appealed to something that he touched on something, and 50 some odd % of the people in New York, mostly under 40s, they voted for him. But these other Democrats on the federal level, Joe, they're just scumbag liars.
One thing that should be clear to all of these Republican extremists and sycophants and the people who are either actively involved in corruption, violating the law, engaged in extrajudicial activity, is that the statute of limitations for any crimes being committed now 5 years. It will extend well beyond the end of the Trump administration.
Unprecedented disrespect when they were all brought to get a pep rally in front of Hegseth and Trump. This is an administration that's fired, uniform generals from the head of the NSA, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Mm-hmm. And I think in many ways, the uniformed military may help save us from this president and his lame people like Hegseth, because I think their commitment is to the Constitution and obviously not to Trump, and I expect Bradley to adhere.
You can certainly go to the judge, advocate generals, the lawyers, and have a discussion about it. If you don't have time, you just say simply, I'm not going to do that. That's against the law.
It puts a lot of burden on the troops to make a decision in real time.
It puts a tremendous amount of burden on officers in the military, but that is their responsibility, and they can figure out, a reasonable person can tell something that is legal and something that is illegal.
So would you refuse these specific orders to strike drug boats if you were still in uniform?
Well, the difference between the initial strike and what is being reported, as a second strike, and those things are different. I think this administration has tied themselves in knots, the explanations that we have received on how this is all legal. And I was saying weeks ago, my concern is with the service members, that we're gonna put these individuals in a really, really tough decision, in a tough.
No, they're not putting them in any tough decisions. And here's the disgust that I have. I could comment on a lot of things that we just saw in those 3 clips. Here's my disgust. You and your party spit on Vietnam veterans coming home from Vietnam. And now you're going to talk to people about a level of disrespect for the service people. That was your party I was a kid, and I remember my father screaming in the kitchen, talking with my uncles and everything else, that these radicals and these hippies at Newark Airport were spitting on service people coming back from Vietnam. And now they want to get all pious and get a virtue signal.
Oh, that's all
Listen,
bull crap.
One final comment, I'll throw it over to you. The rank and file members of the military know when they're given an order, they have to execute it. Period. Exclamation. And Mark Kelly knows that too. You don't make a decision in the moment whether or not you're going to follow an order or not. Who are you lying to? Even lay people like us, non-military people like us, we know people who've been in the military. They don't question an order. If they're given an order, they don't take, well, you know what? I'm going to go think about that for a little bit.
You go to jail.
You go to jail. That's right.
Go to jail.
So guess what?
Here's not going to jail.
Final point. I know I said that this was going to be my final. One final point. Adherence to the Constitution means you do follow orders, because the President of the United States is the commander-in-chief, and the generals who they want to complain, well, Trump got rid of these career generals. They're all part of the deep state. Milley and the rest of them, we all know that now. Don't talk to me about these guys being patriots and worried about people like Joe and everybody out there listening to us, or the working man or anything like that. They care about themselves. Milley's part of the deep state, and so are the rest of them. So spare me your righteous indignation.
Well, let's go down the list. Hakeem Jeffries is threatening people. What he's basically saying is he's threatening you outright. He's basically saying if you support Trump, the statute of limitations does not extend past him, and I'm coming after you and going to put you in jail. That's what he said in no uncertain terms. Is that America? Okay, we'll go to the second guy. He's supporting a coup. He's basically saying the military does not have to listen. That's what he's saying. Yeah. Now we'll go to the third guy. He's basically saying, notice when they asked, would you do that? He changed the subject. Of course you wouldn't. If you do that in the military, you go to jail. You go to Leavenworth. Now, they're talking about bombing drug boats. Now, I haven't really read too much about it, but if you're bringing drugs into this country, you should be dealt with. Now, I'm not saying you kill them, but they, at the minimum, should be arrested. Why are we up in arms about criminals when we're not up in arms when we're transitioning minors in certain states without parental advice, killing children in the third trimester? Violence, political violence. Where was the outrage there? Right. There's outrage. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with an ideology that they're pushing forward. And frankly, when you speak like that, as an elected official, in my opinion, you are you're going against the oath which you took. That's not partisanship. Threatening, encouraging, basic, like upheaval of the order of the American system. You should be arrested.
That's right.
You should be arrested. Or at least, and here's the thing, get a lawyer. And if you think, Mark Kelly, that this is against the law, then get a lawyer.
That's it.
That's all you have to do. It has nothing to do with that. And again, people just, it's just the show and the theater, like, of it all. And because people, again, they're not grounded in anything. They're grounded in their religion, which is their political system, and they see everything through it. And they believe it, and they buy into it on both sides. I listen to it at work from the Chamber of Commerce Republicans. They'll listen to Josh Hawley there, who's about as conservative as it gets in the Senate. And they'll be like, oh, you're a lefty. No, dude. He's telling some serious truth there. He's actually trying to preserve the republic there. But they don't want to hear it because that is their religion.
Yeah.
Their religion. And I'm going to be honest with you. Again, a people who are grounded in a religion can see the truth in what Josh Hawley said, could see through those three men who, if you ask me, are nothing more than virtue signaling and trying to push an ideology. And basically, if you ask me, have no care for the people to the degree that they should. They strictly want to push an ideology which is never going to help the regular man in America. And we buy into it.
That's right.
Listening to ABC News, how that's even on. How anyone would watch ABC News with like a forthright like intent to get something out of it. At this point, I don't know what to say.
I really don't either, because there's example after example after example. Josh Hawley, we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago at the front line with Joe and Joe. Josh Hawley was asking questions of the president of the Teamsters. They actually were bringing in Catholic social teaching, which we both know this, and I've been thinking lately, I want to have on some of our former guests that we've interviewed for the Veritas Catholic Radio Network and maybe do a long form interview on how America needs Catholic social teaching when it comes to how we view, as you were just alluding to, and I've said before, we need a paradigm shift. We don't want the socialism. We already know that, okay? But we don't want this rabid consumerism and this laissez-faire free market. And Larry Fink can make hundreds of millions of dollars, and we're all supposed to just be very happy about that because we're conservative and we don't interfere in the free market. It's what I said earlier. The free market is just like human freedom. Human freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. Human freedom is the right to pursue the good, meaning there's moral boundaries. I could do so many things in my life that are completely within the realm of or within the boundaries, the moral boundaries that are set by the natural law and by God. It's the same thing with the economy. You could do so many things you want. You can be creative as you want. You can make as many of these as you want and sell them. You can make cars if you're Elon Musk. You can do all sorts of things, but you can't do whatever you want. The only worldview that can address that is Catholic social teaching, going back to Rerum Novarum. Just like everything else, Joe, you got to present it and you got to sell it. And the main thing I would say to people is, whether you're on the left or the right, how are either one working out for you right now in America? Because they're not.
They're not. But here's the thing. The people who make the decisions, it does work because they're above the fray. It's when enough people in the 80% can't make it anymore. You see, we're not at 80%. We're probably about 50%. People can't make it anymore. And, they talk about you'll own nothing. Do any Americans own anything now?
Not a lot.
This is my point. So, we live in a society we're debt slaves. That is what America is. We are debt slaves. So, and people are comfortable with that. Why? Because it's all about perception. It's all about perception. I drive a car. It looks like I'm rich when I don't own it. I live in a house. I don't own it either. I give a perception because we don't know who we are anymore as people. We don't know how to live anymore. We don't. Right. And the banks love that.
Oh,
this is what I'm saying. They eat it up and they love it. And they just basically suck you in deeper. And only a religious revival will change that. You see, even people are listening to my voice right now, they're just tuning right past it because it's like me breaking a bottle over their head. I don't want to hear that.
No.
Don't talk about
I
that.
don't think. You want to know why? I'm not going to say that you're completely wrong. I'm not. You're right. A lot of people don't want to hear that. But I'm going to play a couple clips for you right now. And we're going to talk about, Joe, I think the oligarchs, aside from everything else we're talking about, they know that religiously minded people are their enemy. Because on every level, not just abortion, not just marriage, but on economics, on politics, on the power of the state, on what the state can do and what the state can't do, they need to put the boot on the face of religious people and their.
This is Enoch Burke, the teacher who has refused to deny his Christian belief and bow to transgender ideology.
Judge Cregan today has given us a new version of the Constitution regarding religious freedom. He said if Enoch Burke practiced his Christian belief outside the gate, this would never have happened. He said it 3 times today. So he is telling us you can have your religious belief outside the gate. But you know, that's not what the Constitution tells us. It tells us that we have a constitutional right to the free practice and profession of our religious belief in our school, in our job, in our shop, wherever we are, not according to this perverted idea and judgment of Judge Cregan. This dispute began when the principal of the school demanded that he call a child by a new name and use the they pronoun. It did not begin with Enoch Burke. He was commanded to deny his Christian belief, to give up his conscience and agree with transgenderism. And today...
Are you the feelings police? No, just the regular police. Okay. So you're under arrest for your breach of CSO. Can you come inside with us, please? You're right here. Okay. Sounds good. Are you able to drop that for me or pass it off to one of your friends? Can I finish it?
Well, you can finish it, yeah. You know why you're arresting this man for? He refused to apologize for his religious beliefs. Are you aware of that?
I am not aware of
He's protecting your children and your grandchildren.
Modern day Nazis.
Do you guys understand how absurd this is? This is so sad. If you guys really understood what you're doing, you probably wouldn't be doing it. This is not a prideful thing to do. A shameful. Yeah.
I understand what they're doing, but I also... And on concrete, so I'll tell you what is the system, how everything works. First, they arrest you, they take you to a Spy Hill processing center, and then you spend there sometimes a day, sometimes days on concrete in crazy lights. You cannot sleep, you cannot sit because your bum hurts on concrete for hours and hours. You cannot lay down because everything aches, everything hurts. And then they will walk every half an hour, 45 minutes, and they will bang on the metal doors to make sure you can't sleep. I was kept in those conditions for 3 days and 2 nights with my brother David. Then they will take you to this concentration camp, modern day Gulag, where if they don't like you, they will keep you in metal cages, like they did me. Metal cages, solitary confinement. They will take you from a regular cell with water, with washroom, with bed, and they will put you on concrete for hours and hours just because they can. When you complain that this is against the law, that they cannot do this, you know what the answer is from those corrupted people by the door? Those so-called officers, the Remand Center Mafia? We are the law. Here, you have no rights, I was told.
And that's exactly what's going on. Is that, remember, I forgot the exact setting. Lenin was in a meeting, and they were in a place where you could overlook the street. It was a rally of some kind, and pointed out the window because there was the Orthodox Christians, the Russian Orthodox, were processing to the Holy Spirit on the street, right? They were doing an old-fashioned procession. And Lenin interrupted and said, that's our enemy right there. I wish people, when Joe, you and I talk about politics, we talk about economics, we talk about everything. If people don't understand the fundamental fight is what we've said on this show and with many of the people that we've interviewed at the Veritas Catholic Radio Network, the fight is Catechism 409 of the Catholic Church is that all of history is a battle between man and the forces of evil. What you just saw in those 3 clips, that is the evil oligarchs getting their jackbooted stormtroopers to go after people for praying or saying marriage is between one man and one woman, or dare I say, keep your grimy hands and your stupid, evil ideas away from my kids. And their response is, if you take that position, we're going to throw you in jail. And that's exactly what the left has been doing. They don't want to hear that.
Not enough people care because they don't care about that.
Well, it sucks that they
No,
don't.
I know that. And this is why we are in such the place that we're in. No one cares. Meanwhile, to be honest with you, most of those kids, they're just getting eaten alive because none of this works. None of it. None of it. America has a 55% divorce rate, Joe. 55%.
Right.
Families are absolutely a wreck in America. And many of those families would not be a wreck if they embraced their religion. Period. End of story. Statistics prove that out to be true. But we don't care at this point. Many people don't blink at that right now. I don't care. Oh, they're fanatics. Just make the cake. Like that guy. Just make the cake.
Just make the cake.
What's the big deal? Well, it's a big deal to me because I believe in something. We don't believe in anything anymore. And that's what drives everything, Joe. That's what drives everything. It drives your whole life. It drives how you spend your time, how you spend your money, who you marry, the type of family you have. It drives everything. And this is the problem. We're giving our rights away. That was Canada and that was Ireland. That's coming to America. So here's the question. Where is the Catholic voice as that's going on? Do you somehow think that they're not going to come after the Catholic Church? They already have in the last administration with regard to abortion centers. How many of them were vandalized? Some were set on fire. Am I correct at that? Destroyed?
Yes.
And there were a lot of them. So this is my point. Where is the Catholic voice, the Catholic leadership? Because they're coming after you. I'm going to give you the playbook. Wait till we get the Mandani presidency. It may not be him, someone like him. Maybe it's in 15 years. And 2 gay men march into St. Patrick's, and I say, I demand to be married. I demand. The law says that I can legally get married, and I demand that you marry me. And they say no, and they take them to court, and they lose.
Right.
This is what I'm saying. This is so if I, the dummy from New Jersey, can see that coming, all these smart guys who speak 7 languages and have 75 PhDs and run multi-million-dollar dioceses, what are you doing about it? Right. Where is your collective voice? What are we doing about it? Because they're coming for you.
Right.
Don't you get it? And then some of them actually, which blows my mind, will defend the very people who are going to deliver their own heads on a silver platter.
And I give you an example.
I watch this and I'm just like,
you'd have
whoa,
thought,
man. I don't know what to say.
If you notice, Cardinal Timothy Dolan in New York has shifted, at least outwardly, you hear him sounding more politically conservative. But here's a perfect example of what you're talking about. Cardinal Dolan, to achieve a good goal, I guess, okay, I'm just throwing it out there, wanted the New York State government to give a tax credit for families who wanted to send their children to Catholic schools. Okay. Now, okay, that's a kind of a political goal. something that he pursued. What did he do? He shut his mouth about Andrew Cuomo's support for abortion up to the moment of birth and everything else. All right. And what did Cuomo do? Now, speaks to what
This is years ago, but yes, please.
Recent history, though. Okay. During the first Trump, which I think Cuomo goes up to Albany with Bishop DiMarzio from Brooklyn. Okay. Who I like very much, by the way, Bishop DiMarzio. They go up to Albany, and Carl Heastie, the state Senate Democrat leader, made them wait and then basically sent out an assistant and said, Mr. Heastie can't see you. And Cuomo completely backed away from anything he promised in terms of that tax credit. Now, why am I telling this story? Stop listening to them and believing that they're going to help you at all. They just like you said, Joe Rossetto, they hate your guts, Cardinal.
They don't. Not the Republicans are much better.
But
at least they're throwing you a few bones. You've got a few bones out of them. It's outright aggressive behavior. It's outright, and it cannot be disputed. That what we just saw, this is civilized, quote unquote, Ireland, civilized Canada, where basically what they're saying is if you believe whatever you believe, keep it in your house. Keep it in your house. By the way, you're paying into the tax system that supports these things, and I don't care. Meanwhile, like me, I have 5 kids. I pay high Bergen County taxes in New Jersey, and I still have to send my kids to Catholic school because I will not subject them to that. Sorry, I won't do it. So this is my point. Is that fair to me and people like me? But it doesn't matter.
They don't care.
They don't care. And they say, shut up and sit down. Well, I won't. And too many people are okay with that.
That's right.
Where is our leaders fighting for us? Or what are we doing? Because you have to call out the enemy. They're your enemy. Do you understand that?
Maybe they don't.
No, I don't know. But either they don't care, they're not paying attention, their life is grounded in a different ideology. I'm talking about the Catholics that vote for that. They hate your church and they hate you. Right. And they're going to do everything they can to ground that behind the door. No more public square. Nothing. No. Meanwhile, you have to pay into the system or you go to jail. Where is the collective voice? And why do we vote for that? Do you care? And this is what I'm saying. I am flabbergasted, but it also says something, and it proves out what I have said many times. Our religion is a mile wide and an inch deep in America. We have seen this with the abortion votes. After Roe, red states like Kansas, dude, it doesn't get more conservative than Kansas. We're not talking about Massachusetts. Overwhelmingly vote for abortion.
Right.
Why? Because religion is a mile wide and an inch deep.
Right.
We love to talk about Jesus, but we're not changing our life one iota because of him.
That's right. That's right.
Everyone's going to heaven.
Right.
But we're not changing our life one iota as a result of it because there is no more sin and there is no more hell. Well, I got news for you, my friends. I'm not Jesus, and I'll tell you that. That's for sure. But that's a lie. If you think there's no hell and there's no sin, you're living in the friggin', I don't know what to tell you.
Just go look out the window. You know, the old saying, I think it was Russell Kirk said, paraphrasing, he used a different phrase, but basically don't try to make heaven on earth. And he's right about that, because you can't have heaven on earth. But one thing you can have on earth, you could have hell. And we've seen it. We've seen it in the Soviet Union. We've seen it in Cuba. We're seeing it now in China.
Dude, remember something in Europe, Joe.
I was going to say
it in the middle of our country.
When your family's getting destroyed, getting wrecked by the state, when you have a boot on your face, while at the same time the person with the boot on your face is convincing you that they're all about your own freedom, you know what I mean? That's hell. You're just being sold a bunch of lies. The sick part about it is, at least in hell, you know you're damned for eternity. These people are experiencing hell on earth, and they're saying this is great. This is absolutely phenomenal. I could do all the drugs I want. I could watch all the porn I want. I could kill as many of my children as I want. I could transition my son if I want. I could do all these things. I'm free.
Do you know that in the UK, Britain, right now, 40% of the children are aborted?
Oh, 40.
4 out of 10 are aborted. Joe, maybe this is why. Again, I don't like to do this because clearly I don't know the mind of God. Maybe this is why, though, God's just letting the West fall apart. Because ultimately, we're destroying ourselves. We are destroying ourselves as a people. Do you think that God is blind to all this?
No.
People who who just get caught up in all the nonsense and the noise, yet they're cultural Catholics, or they're cultural Christians, or they're cultural Jews, or they're cultural Muslims, and they all think they're going to a better place when they die. You think God is okay with this? Because I'll be honest with you, based upon the definition of God, God is just, right? Well, he wouldn't be just if he was okay with it. He wouldn't be God if he was okay with it. It's like a father bringing it down to a much lower level. Like a father has to be just in his home. And if he's not a good father.
Right.
It's the same thing with God. When America kills 63 million children in the womb over a 60-year period, if God is just, something has to give as a result of that, right?
Right.
Or he wouldn't be just. So, yet we ignore that.
That's right.
And we ignore that. And we don't even speak about it.
Right.
And not only don't we speak about it, we vote for it. Yet we think we're okay with God. We stand on good footing with him. Does that make sense?
None.
I don't think it doesn't make sense to me. And
Maybe
I
in the
go to
modern
the Gregorian, and I don't speak I don't even speak English.
Well, I know that.
So, I mean,
But
this is what I'm saying.
maybe in the modern American version, inch deep and mile wide Christianity that you've always described, it makes sense. But it doesn't make sense in any real, authentic Christian way to say, well, I could do all these things, and it's really not about. God is in control of every single millisecond of human history. Anything that happens, it's either because he wants it to happen or he allows it to happen. And to your point, no, none of this, all those dead babies are not going overlooked. And many of the women that have killed their own children who have passed away themselves are in hell. Okay?
If they didn't repent.
Because if they didn't repent.
Here's the thing.
They didn't repent.
A lot of people do things. I don't want to sound like, because you have to have full knowledge of what you're doing. God judges that. But here's the part where we come in. If someone doesn't have full knowledge, I'll just use an example. You're married, you get divorced, you get remarried, you still come to the Catholic Church. I'm the priest at that church. You did not get an annulment. You may not understand the depth of what you're doing, but it's my job to explain it to you.
That's
nicely.
right. That's right.
You see, that's the missing piece. We're not there's many people who are sincere in doing bad things. Many women have abortions with a sincere, like, there's something inside maybe that's like, oh, this was bad. But they don't know the full gravity of what they're doing. It's the church's job to form its people. Are we doing that?
Right.
And I'll throw a little story about that in terms of culpability. A friend of mine, I won't mention, years ago, he got his girlfriend pregnant. And I remember he got an abortion. And I remember after they had an abortion, she was very upset, his girlfriend. So they were staying in a hotel. And when he's seen me, he says to me straight out, this is a guy I grew up with. Dude, I'm going to hell. This is not, he didn't go to the Gregorian either. Mm-hmm. But clearly he knew he did something wrong. We have to face that as a nation. We've been on the wrong path for decades. But again, we are at a tipping point, my friends. I'm telling you right now, and the place that we're headed is a place of hurt. I'm telling you this right now. Generational hurt. Economically, the family is a wreck. Our people are lost. Our people are just aimlessly grasping at frigging garbage that you cannot build a life upon. This is what we see. Mm-hmm. And it's Joe, and I have eyes, and I'm a keen observer of human nature. I'm going to tell you that right now. Lost. We are in such trouble.
Yeah.
As a country.
You're right. And listen, that's a perfect place to end it. That's why we're here. We said from the beginning, we're going to do our small part, hopefully a bigger part. You like, subscribe, share. We'll get out to a wider audience. We're going to do our part to try to help people to open their eyes. Because guess what? My eyes weren't always open. They had to be
Nor
open.
were mine.
That's what I'm saying. Your eyes weren't always open. They had to be open. So in charity, I would say to anybody out there, if your eyes are closed, you got to listen, do some research, think about the gravity of all these things. I don't care whether it's the usurious interest you're paying to buy your home or trying to, if you even can, or if it's abortion or transitioning kids. Go look up what the authentic meaning of the word freedom is and liberty. Okay, and understand we can't just do whatever we want to do just because we feel like doing it. That's not even an American concept, but that's what we've been sold. Joe Resinello, great conversation as always. Stick around, everybody. We got a couple-minute clip for you from RFK, but we want to thank you for joining us here on Sundays at the Front Line with Joe and Joe. Hey, help us out. Like, subscribe, share. We have all of these conversations are on X, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube. We do all of our Veritas Catholic Radio interviews are all on there also. So if you like the content, as always, we ask you a little sacrifice. Take 3 seconds, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the share. Most importantly, the share, because we know anybody watching right now probably is subscribed already. But thank you once again. We'll see you next Sunday. Remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.
All heard stories of 20 and 30-year-old kids who can't afford to buy a house and even can't afford rent and are moving back in with their parents. This isn't happening because young people have suddenly gotten lazy. Monthly mortgage payments for home buyers are up 20% just in the last year, and that's because interest rates have doubled. Meanwhile, the cost of the average home has gone from $250,000 to $400,000 just since 2019. And those higher home prices have also driven up the cost of rent. So now Americans are paying a third of their income for rent. That's the highest ratio since records were kept. So what's happening? Well, what's happening is BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, these giant corporations which own 88% of the S&P 500, are going into real estate. These investment firms swoop in as soon as a house comes on the market. They outbid prospective home buyers with cash offers. They add that property to their investment portfolio, and then they rent it back to you or your children at the most exorbitant rate that the market can bear. So how can our kids or the typical American homeowner win a bidding war with BlackRock? By 2030, these giant corporations are on track to own 60% of the single-family homes in our country. So BlackRock wants to be everybody's landlord and everybody's neighbor, but I'm not going to let that happen. When I get to the White House, I'm going to restore affordable home ownership to every American, and I'm going to do that without raising the national debt. And here's how I'm going to accomplish that feat. I'm going to create a federal program that backs mortgages at 3% financed by tax-free bonds. These mortgages are going to be available to people only, not corporations. This will drop mortgage payments by more than $1,000 a month for a medium-priced home and allow your children to outcompete BlackRock in the market. So here's how it works. Imagine that you had a rich uncle who was willing to co-sign your mortgage. Well, I'm going to make Uncle Sam that rich uncle. It's not a giveaway, it's a loan guarantee that makes that property affordable to millions of Americans who cannot now afford it. This is just one of the policies that the Kennedy administration will deploy to create millions of new home buying opportunities at payments of less than $1,000 a month.